Вместо воздуха был едкий дым. Я просила тебя, помоги, но вместо капель дождя ты пролил керосин. Солнце вяло стекает вниз, скоро первый трамвай, время тает, тает. Ты скажешь, что это каприз, но что-то внутри никто не узнает. Под покровом ночи скрой то, что болит, и по водосточным стекают слезы в моей крови. Под покровом ночи скрой то, что болит, и по водосточным стекают слезы в моей крови. Залечи мои раны, мне стало трудно дышать. Похорони, если хочешь, но я приду во снах. Засыпаю под жужжание витрин, улетаю я дальше мира. Завтра станет лучше, чем вчера, завтра будет так, говорят. Под покровом ночи скрой то, что болит. Под покровом ночи скрой то, что болит, и по водосточным стекают слезы в моей крови. Под покровом ночи скрой то, что болит, и по водосточным стекают слезы в моей крови. Пусти меня в свои сны, мне тут так холодно дышать. Пока дождем не упали мы и не разбились об асфальт, и наяву мы не нужны. Как можно тише нужно кричать, на лужах даже остались следы, а нас с тобой придется искать.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Good evening, friends. Welcome to the State of the Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. Yes, it is, in fact, the State of the Union address tonight. And it once again proves that you can accomplish so much if you lie about it.
Yeah, it's something to watch it. He's kind of stumbling a couple times going through it. Simon probably won't join us tonight because he's probably watching. He's got a big show tomorrow on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he keeps getting tripped up. He just keeps saying the same old talking points. He brought up the Civil Rights March just now.
Yeah, he's he's brought up the Civil Rights Act. He's brought up January 6th. He's brought up trickle down economics. He's brought up
The price of Snickers.
Price of Snickers, wealthy billionaires paying their fair share, and how no teacher should have to pay a larger tax rate than a CEO of a multi-billion. I mean, just it's the same tired talking points that the Democrats have been throwing around since the 90s. And I don't know if it's the irony's lost, or his speechwriter is just an idiot, or if they truly believe this crap. But everything that he's talking about, from medical bills to
I'm just going to show him. I'm just going to show him here too while you're talking. Keep going. I mean, he just looks like angry man shakes fist at moon. He just looked angry the whole time he's up there.
He looks like a plastic statue, and his whole cadence is like slow, mumble really fast, angry, shake fist. I mean, it's just all over the place. They must have got him on the juice tonight to a great degree, but yeah, it's everything that he's brought up that has gone wrong with the country has been his party's policies over the past 50 years or so.
This thing's an hour? Is that?
Fuck, it's like, the price of insulin is too high, and college is too high, and home ownership is too high. And it's like, gee, I wonder what sectors of the market the government has their hands in more than anything.
Yeah.
And they're demanding more. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
You don't hear that in the background, do you?
No.
Okay. I've got Uncle Joe talking in one of my ears here, just so I can comment if he says anything completely stupid.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't listen to something and
Well, you haven't been married long enough?
Oh no, you just tune that out completely.
So you go through a tune out, and then you go back to actually listening again eventually.
Eventually, yeah. So yeah, it's ridiculous. And he's talking about the border, the thing going on down the border. I can't believe he actually used the word illegal alien. I thought that was like the verboten phrase for border jumpers amongst the Democrat Party.
Somebody's screaming right now at the.
What?
Somebody was screaming something about Palestine.
Yeah, and there's that shit too. You know, AOC got confronted in the street the other day for not supporting Palestine enough or something, and she's like, "That's fucked up. That's fucked up."
Meanwhile, she was calling for it, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
she's like, "You got to engage them wherever," is what I think she had said.
Yep.
Doesn't work so good on the other foot, does it? Who was the guy they just threw out? Somebody said Charles A. Gandor. Yeah, it sounded like he's yelling something about Palestine.
Yeah. I don't know, but this is the first time that I've actually seen a comment up there.
Well, he got in quick. Facebook killed the stream like right after he commented. So thanks for popping in here, Charles. We don't get a lot of people from Facebook. We got our YouTube and our Rumble group, but yeah, I don't see a lot of Facebook. But yeah, the guy was screaming. They kicked him out right away. So that shows you they're keeping up on top of that. They must have security all over the place.
Well, apparently they built a big wall around the Capitol today. I don't know if they were expecting another insurrection, which was the second thing that he brought up was the Capitol insurrection. But I think the biggest takeaway, though, that I'm taking from this is you look behind him, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of he's got this like half smirk on his face, and he's just kind of like shaking his head every time he says something stupid or a flat out lie. But that smirk on Mike Johnson's face is like, I know something that you don't know.
Oh, here he goes. He just brought up Save the Children with gun control.
Of course. Of course he did.
Brought up Uvalde.
Yeah, where the police decided to stand down for 45 minutes and sit outside.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to bring up Acorn control after that.
Because only the police can be trusted with guns because they are highly trained
Yeah.
individuals. Speaking of Uvalde, though, that became a point of contention in some Super Tuesday primary results last night. Um, Down in the 23rd District of Texas, the incumbent Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez is facing a primary challenge from YouTuber and Second Amendment advocate Brandon Herrera, otherwise known as the AK guy.
Yeah.
And they're going to a runoff because while Tony, the incumbent, got 45% of the vote, Brandon got 25% of the vote, and the 6 or 7 other challengers ate up the remaining percentages. And so Tony Gonzalez took this as a victory, saying that they're going to win by a larger margin on May 28th when they have their second primary in the runoff. But Brandon Herrera was like, hey, you failed to break 50% in an 8-way race as the incumbent, and now you're going off in a runoff with me. And that tells me that 55% of the Republicans in Texas 23 have roundly rejected you. So if the choice comes down to me and you, if that 55% coalition rallies around me, then your goose is cooked, sir. And then Brandon Herrera, I'll see if I can find it again here real quick, but he laid out a very good list of reasons why Tony Gonzalez deserves not to be reelected to the House of Representatives. And I'll read that here verbatim because it'll pad time and it'll also let you know a little bit about who Tony Gonzalez is. So if we have anybody who is listening right now down in Texas 23, you can be a little bit more informed on it. So Herrera says, last night, the people of Texas's 23rd congressional district sent a message. They're done with Tony Gonzalez and his betrayal of our shared conservative values. Tony sabotaged fellow Republicans' border reform bill and called it anti-American and not Christian. When Tony's own district was being overrun with illegals, every other Republican member of Congress backed Texas Governor Abbott in his fight to secure the border, except Tony. Instead, Tony voted to send $40 billion taxpayer dollars to defend Ukraine's border. Tony voted for Joe Biden's vaccine mandates and to fund $400 million federal vaccine tracking databases that would enable the government to deny employment and benefits to individuals who refused experimental vaccines. He voted to keep our soldiers in Syria, where they are dying, for no national interest. He voted to authorize warrantless wiretaps on American citizens. He voted for taxpayer-funded abortions and to allow the government persecution of religious organizations that support traditional marriage. He voted with Democrats for the January 6th Commission to prosecute and imprison President Trump and allowed himself to be a prop in one of Nikki Haley's campaign ads. And when it was time to hold the leadership of local law enforcement accountable for the tragedy in Uvalde, he instead blamed law-abiding citizens and supported Joe Biden's gun control bill that funds unconstitutional red flag laws and takes Second Amendment rights away from veterans. These are all the reasons that a clear majority of Republicans in the district voted against him yesterday, but his response is to call these voters crazy and say he needs to drown them. So that was Brandon Herrera on why Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, that guy does not sound like GOP.
No, not at all. And for those of you who are listening to this and are wondering why a ostensibly libertarian podcast is shilling for a Republican candidate in District 23. If you don't know Brandon Herrera, he often goes to libertarian and libertarian-leaning conventions like the Young Americans for Liberty. I think he showed up to a couple of LNC things, and he's more libertarian-leaning than just straight-line GOP. He is running as a Republican because in the contentious political environment that we find ourselves in, unfortunately, you have to run in one of the major parties.
Well, and I just looked too. I was like, well, maybe this guy with our state, Don Bacon, he kind of is in a district that's purple. Mm-hmm. This Gonzalez guy looks like he's in a solid red district. So, it's not like he was doing that to survive and stay in.
Right.
That makes no sense. So that guy deserves to get the boot. And just going off the primary of that area, there was twice as many Republicans voting in the primaries Democrats. So, that's a solid red district right there.
Right. So whoever gets the Republican nod is almost guaranteed to get the eventual victory in that seat. Now, I have a feeling that the large majority of the people who are voting there are conservative Hispanic American citizens and probably just see like Gonzalez and was like, oh, Gonzalez, GOP, check the box, right? But now we've got a Gonzalez versus a Herrera, and things will get a little bit more interesting.
Well, and there's some other interesting. There was a story out of North Carolina. It was a 21-year-old guy.
Yep.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
What was it, like a 10-term incumbent state senator? This guy, when he's in college, the incumbent voted for vaccine mandates, shutting down schools, other stuff. And he was a kid at the time. He's like, you know what? This isn't right. So he turns 21, he runs for state house, and he wins.
Yep. He the thing that pushed him over the edge into wanting to do it was that he emailed and wrote letters and tried phone calls to his state senator and never got a single reply at all. So
that's funny, because that's why I ran for city council, was lack of response from my city council members. And I'm glad to say my entire time on city council, I responded to every single person that contacted me, even the large amount of wackadoodles, which you get. But, good for him. They should at least be responsive. They should at least pretend that they give a shit.
Yeah.
There was some stuff people contacted me about. I did not give two shits or a flying fuck about it, but I would respond. I'd pretend I gave a shit.
Yeah, and that's like 90% of politics is pretending to give a shit about everybody's weird little bugaboos.
But when you get so bad and so entrenched, you don't even try to pretend you give a shit anymore. Good. Get that guy out of there.
Yep. Trump has put out on Truth Social that the meds are wearing off.
Oh, he's been roasting him the whole time. That stream I had going up, it's got Trump's comments next to Joe Biden over there. Now, he's just constant comments on. He's still got it. That's a good segue to Super Tuesday.
Yeah, Super Tuesday was pretty interesting. Nikki Haley lost everything except Vermont,
Washington D.C. if you want to count that one.
I think that Washington D.C. residents should be banned from voting as a federal enclave. You want to live in Washington D.C.? Sorry, that's one of the things you got to give up.
I missed some comments over here. Just Jared said Mike Johnson looks like he's dying on the inside. Yeah, I can see part of his face there. I agree.
He looks like he's dying on the inside because he's trying so hard to keep from laughing. He's just kind of got that like, oh my God, this guy.
I didn't get it up in time, but you could tell he was trying not to laugh on that one.
Yeah, and
you can see him right there for people that want to know. You can
see
the bottom half. He just looks sick of it.
And for a while there, he was just kind of like sinking further and further into his chair with that smirk on his face. So when it comes out tomorrow, the Democrat media is obviously going to just hail this as the greatest speech since, I guess, like Martin Luther King or the D-Day, or not D-Day, but the attack on Pearl Harbor speech. Nothing to fear but fear itself.
Right.
But it's going to be the greatest speech since that. The Republican media is going to say that he sounded like a rambling, bumbling old fool. I'm really interested in more of the nonpartisan, just fact checking, because 9 out of 10 things he said, they're not creatively interpreted. They're not given a spin treatment. They're just flat out lies.
Here's what I'm finding interesting. When he first came out, he seemed like he was having trouble. There's people yawning. He was like looking around, responding to people in the crowd, messing around on his table there. But he got a little more focused. I wonder if they like pump him full of Ritalin right before he goes out, and it's got to kick in.
I imagine that it's something like an insulin pump, but it's full of like amphetamines or something. And he just has to push a button and give himself a little jolt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something like they want to get him out there before he starts wearing off too much. They know they have like a Goldilocks zone to pump him full of drugs. Also, Raptor said the fact Brandon didn't even need to say Democrat plant and just laid out the reasons why Gonzalez is a potential plant is wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Brandon Herrera, not Let's Go Brandon. Okay.
Yeah. No. No, not Let's Go Brandon. Brandon Herrera. I missed that comment. He'd commented that a little bit ago. But anyways, back to Super Tuesday. So Haley won Vermont and Washington, D.C.
Yep.
You know, a lot of the other lefty areas were close. You know, Maine was a standout at Trump in that up in the Northeast. Trump had a pretty big win, but yeah, pretty resounding vote totals for Haley to get the hell out.
And she did. She suspended her campaign. Finally. Should have done that when you lost your home fucking state. But, you know, I'm not a political consultant or anything. I'm just a blue-collar dumbass.
Yeah. And she's getting roasted because they had some pledge that whoever got the nomination you'd support whoever got the nomination, which she signed. And of course, now she's not.
Yeah, of course she's not. And somebody asked her about that, like the first GOP debates. They asked, you know, if you drop out, will you endorse the eventual nominee, even if it's Donald Trump? And she said yes. And somebody asked about that, if that's still true. She's like, well, that was a condition to get up on that stage. It's like, oh, so you lied. Yeah. So you're either a pledge breaker or you're a liar. They're kind of painted yourself in a corner.
Both equally shitty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the takeaway is Trump set some records here that I doubt will be beat again. Just in how quick he did it, the blowouts that he had. I mean, that's never been seen before.
Yeah.
So
just huge percentage.
Yeah. So already we got to start thinking about what the Trump presidency is going to look like, I guess. It'll be interesting. Once he's got to give us his VP pick at this point.
Yeah. And people are saying Vivek because they've been palling around a lot. I think that would be a wasted opportunity for Vivek. But then again, Vivek, like, you know, we've gone over this a million times. Vivek is overqualified for basically every cabinet position you could stick him into.
And yeah, I mean, the VP job is, you're kind of window dressing at that point. You're being set up to run for the next cycle, which I don't know if Vivek's the guy that the Republican Party wants to peg as their next guy.
I guess it kind of all depends on if the MAGA sweep of the Republican Party. Old hat Republicans hate Vivek almost as much as they hate Trump. But in the upcoming elections, if a lot of incumbents or old hats either change their colors or get voted out in primaries, and there's kind of a populist MAGA sweep of the Republican Party, Vivek is already setting himself up as the sort of heir apparent to the MAGA agenda.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen.
So who are you liking at this point? I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, I'm still thinking that Tim Scott's going to shake out. He's a little bit establishment, hits a couple check boxes to get some votes, has a pretty acceptable voting record to GOP. You know, it might pull some of those GOP that hate Trump if Scott's in there.
It's a possibility. Also, might be a woman, might be somebody like Carrie Lake.
I thought so too, but you comment on something that I agreed with after I thought about it, that she's too big a personality to be next to Trump.
So's Vivek, honestly.
Yeah, Vivek is too. That's why, Tim Scott's a little boring.
Yeah.
DeSantis is a little boring too, but I think his arc has passed with this election. He just wasn't popular once he got on the big show.
he was given a lot of bad advice, I think, by a lot of like Bushite establishment types, and it's not legally possible for him to be the VP anyway, because you can't have both the president and the vice president from the same state, and they're both in Florida.
Well, the State of the Union is over. That's one of the shortest ones I can think of. 30 minutes.
Drugs wore off.
That's what I'm saying. That stuff's got like a 30-minute window. They like pumped him up right before he went out there.
Yeah, now he's gonna get back into his quarters, and they're gonna take the big adrenaline needle like in Pulp Fiction, and they're just gonna they're gonna get him, because I bet right now his nervous system and his cardiovascular system is like on the verge of collapse.
Well, he's got his handler out there showing him around, so
Right.
he'll be good to go. They'll get him some ice cream, change his Depends, put him to bed.
Yes.
Ready to go. So basically it'll be interesting to see how this plays out when the primaries ended this early. I mean, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
If Trump just goes straight to, taking it to Biden, or he just builds a war chest, or what he does.
The possibility of him dropping out is still always on the table. Speaking of which, Roger Stone, old time political, goes back to the Nixon administration.
Yep.
Good friends with Donald Trump. He was on InfoWars today going over his reasons why he thinks Michelle Obama is going to be the nominee. And it lines up pretty much exactly with what I've been saying for the past few months now, that she does not want to do it, but somebody is telling her, you're going to do this whether you like it or not. And right before the DNC comes out, they're going to tell Joe that he's got to go. He's going to resign due to health complications and turn down any nominee at the DNC. And then it's going to be a mad scramble for a new nominee. And Michelle Obama is going to get drafted, and she's going to be parachuted in on, golden angel wings to be the savior of the Democrat Party. And the Kamala problem, Roger thinks that the Kamala problem is going to be solved by the DNC and Michelle Obama and whoever else is behind the scenes on that, saying that if you drop out with Joe and do not try to contest the election, you will be given the next vacant Supreme Court seat.
Well, it was interesting because in the State of the Union, Joe made the comment that Kamala was the next woman president. It's like, in what bizarro world is that? I guess if you drop dead before the election, she'll have it briefly, but I don't see that. She's like one of the most unlikable. She's just unlikable.
Well, the path to that is also clear, because if the powers behind the throne go to Joe and they say, you're out, you have to resign at the DNC, or you have to not resign, but deny the nomination, right? And he says no, then all of this media attention that we've had to the cognitive failings of Joe Biden are going to be used as justification for invoking the 25th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris will be the first woman of color president in the United States history, and that will be enough, probably also with a promise of a Supreme Court seat, to get her to not run as the Democrat nominee in the upcoming cycle.
Well, it's interesting how that would work if he's knocked off before the election. If they take him out before the election, does she slide into his spot? Yeah, that's pretty weird how all that would play out. I mean, that's something that would rip the party apart if it went sideways.
See, I don't think so. I think that right now there is no Democrat civil war. I think right now the two sides of the fighting that we're seeing right now is everybody versus Joe Biden. And Joe Biden has a lot of dirt hanging over his head but he and people in his family and immediate orbit that are loyal to him, they got a lot of dirt on everybody else too. I think this is just kind of a Mexican standoff that's going on. Kamala Harris gave an interview a few weeks ago, and the interviewer asked her, if something would happen, do you feel up to the task of being the president? And she said, in her cackling, laughing, non-answer way, she's like, I'm ready and able to serve.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Yeah. So when she did that, Kamala Harris or Dan Bongino surmised that she was signaling to Democrat donors that were thinking of jumping the Biden ship and going over to Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom or any of these other potential replacement candidates. He says that that was a signal to the donors to hang on. The Biden ship will not be without a captain. It'll just be me instead of Joe. If something happens, we're not done yet. I think that was a signal to the deep state blob that if Joe doesn't go peacefully, the 25th Amendment is on the table.
Right. Yeah, we got some comments over here. I said half an hour. Somebody said, no, he started about 9:21. Okay, I thought it started at 7. I missed that part. Wait, give Michelle or Kamala the next vacant Supreme Court seat because didn't Michelle have her license to practice law revoked?
Kamala will get the next Supreme Court justice seat, and I will knock on wood right now. If that offer is made and she says yes, and Michelle Obama gets the presidency of the United States, Clarence Thomas will die under suspicious circumstances the same way Antonin Scalia did. I fully believe that Scalia was assassinated right at the end of the Obama administration, and they tried to get Merrick Garland in there, and you've seen what a disaster he's been as Attorney General. They tried to get Merrick Garland in there right at the 11th hour of the Obama administration, and in a rare and fortuitous instance of the GOP senators having an actual fucking spine and doing their job, they said, nope. Sorry, we're going to let the next president fill this Supreme Court vacancy.
Yeah, and Bongino hits on that. I know a lot of people listen to him, but, they got to play. Simon popped in here. He's got to go soon. Let me get him up here.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I see that too. Sorry, Simon.
I saw you, Simon. I wasn't sure what time you had to go. Let me get you in the stream here. Simon, you there?
Yes, I am, guys. How are you?
Doing well. So you watched that, I take it?
I did. I watched the whole thing, and sorry to rain in your parade, but it was a fantastically strong speech for Biden. And I don't mean that from a low base. He only mumbled twice, and he gave a really, really strong speech.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, there was when he was mumbling and he seemed kind of distracted. I think they pumped him full of meds and they started kicking in. They knew they had a window.
Undoubtedly, he was on pure oxygen, Adderall, amphetamine, and adrenochrome. But the point was, nobody's going to read the fact checks. Nobody's going to read his prescription bill for the evening. It's just the initial impression. And the initial impression was he did really well. He argued with the hecklers like a true stand-up comedian. And he did a very, very strong performance indeed. I'm shocked at how strong it was.
There was a lot of angry old man yelling at cloud instances, but yeah, I think the fact that there wasn't very much mumbling and bumbling, like, where am I? Where am I? That was
just at the beginning. I thought we were going to have some good material because he started, but then, zoned in and good to go.
Yeah. So, I was going to watch the Katie Britt response because we're doing a special on weaponized news starting at 11, which is why I'm going to have to leave you, unfortunately, if you run over. But I guess I'll end up addressing that on our show on Friday night. But I mean, there's an enormous amount else going on in the world, and what he didn't mention and what broke just before he walked into the room was Burns, the CIA director, has been dispatched to Cairo to try and save at the last moment the ceasefire and hostage negotiations, which have essentially broken down.
Mm-hmm.
The other big news from today is the Israelis have said that they have given a 1 week ultimatum to the Lebanese that the Hezbollah forces have got to knock off the strikes on northern Israel and withdraw behind the Litani River. And the deadline for that is the Ides of March.
Beware the Ides of March.
Interesting date to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how...
I mean, things are kicking off there. We had extraordinarily strong statements at the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, not much out of the Arab League ministers, but it's interesting that the Swedish Prime Minister was sitting next to Jill Biden. He obviously was there to celebrate the Swedish accession to NATO. We had some kind of fairly jingoistic, stupid comments regarding Putin, but they all got a universal applause from people who want to die in a nuclear holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I popped over. I saw both sides were standing up, and I turned the volume up. It's like, oh, they're talking about Russia. So
yeah. But he's announced that they're going to build a World War II D-Day style temporary port in Gaza, so they can drive aid trucks straight off American landing craft into Gaza. But that's going to take weeks and weeks to construct. They're still desperately trying to start a 40-day ceasefire before the beginning of Ramadan, which is going to be on Monday, probably, depends on the sighting of the moon, but it's probably going to be on Monday. So they're really, really coming down to the wire on that. And the reason why our show headline, starting in a few minutes, is high noon, like the 1952 Gary Cooper meeting, was not only because we both fancied Grace Kelly, but because the vote on the first mini omnibus, what we're calling the minibus bill, is due to take place at noon tomorrow. They couldn't get it done today, so the Senate adjourned for the State of the Union address. They're reconvening at 10 a.m. and they've scheduled the vote for 12 noon. Hopefully for them that'll pass. Biden will sign it before midnight. So for those 6 departments of government, their funding will be secure for the rest of the financial year through to the 30th of September. And then next week, they have to start on the next government agencies, including DOD, VA, and DHS, and they have to get those done by the 22nd of March. So they'll have about 10 working days to get that done. But what's significant about that is it's more than 3 times the amount. So rather than being like 460 billion, it's like 1.5 trillion.
Well, we got a question for you here, Simon. Just Jared says, Simon, I heard Medvedev a couple weeks ago say, I don't know why Poland is so eager to fight us. We won't treat them as gently as our Ukrainian brothers.
Well, because that indeed they're not Slavic brothers bound by religion, and they were never formally part of the Soviet Union, though they were reluctant members of the Warsaw Pact. So that there's some truth in that. I don't pay a great deal of credence to Medvedev. He is reputed to be a very, very heavy drinker, but on the other hand, he gets to be the kind of like bad cop to Lavrov's good cop, while Putin tries to
pretty much all the spice he takes, it seems like, come out of his mouth. So maybe it's
Yeah,
after
but
a
there
couple shots of
was
vodka.
extremely strong pushback against the United States by the Chinese foreign minister very, very early in the morning last night, about 2 a.m. our time. I actually watched all of that live, and I have to say, it was an absolutely outstanding performance by him, on par with Lavrov and Jai Shankar of India. Normally, he hates the media, and he says, okay, you've got like 30 seconds to ask me a question, and then you can drop dead. But in this case, he praised the journalists for their hard work and did about an hour of questions and answers. And without notes and a teleprompter, he ran through all the talking points that I've been covering for the last 12 months, just like, almost like he had a bet with his staff for how many catchphrases he could get into every sentence. It was absolutely astonishing, really, really strong, like blockbuster performance. And we've had more closed session debates on America's draft version 3 for their counter proposal to the Algerian UN Security Council resolution, which they vetoed without a vote. They just said they wouldn't approve it, so it didn't even get put up to a vote.
Well, speaking of that area there too, could you hit on the Houthis? I mean, they sunk their first ship, didn't they?
Yeah, well, that ship floated for like 2 weeks till it finally sunk. Right, the guy, Commander Dr. Al Houthi, who does these hour and a half long, he talks even more than I do, if that's possible, every Thursday. He did another very strong speech today. And
I think you shared one of his with us, didn't you? I watched.
No, he actually does. He does very impressive speeches, albeit they tend to be a little bit repetitive. He could definitely, if you cut out the repetition, it'd be trimmed to an hour. But maybe we don't quite appreciate all of the cultural aspects of that. And maybe he's watching the Dale Carnegie interviews on how to win friends and influence people. So he said that the kind of stuff like, there's only one God, and we're going to surprise both our enemies and our friends. So like Victoria Newland was suggesting, of surprises on the way in the forthcoming weeks in Ukraine, albeit that she didn't even last herself an additional week beyond that comment. He certainly is promising a lot, and he's called for yet another million-man march in Sana tomorrow. Since I last spoke of you, the Iranians have had a fantastically positive 7 days. They were utterly triumphant at the Gas Exporting Countries Forum in Algiers over the weekend. Raisi was re-elected. Though they had low turnout, it was only slightly lower than previously. He personally was successful. The ultra-conservatives have consolidated their power in Iran. He and the cabinet celebrated, and then the energy minister announced that they were ready to transport gas east, west, north, south. The president said they were setting up storage facilities, wanted to become a price-finding location, trade in natural gas other than in dollars and in euros, and operate a global storage facility, which would basically enable gas from places like Qatar and Azerbaijan and Russia to all be mixed up, so it wasn't quite as easy to tell whose gas was coming from where, if you'll excuse the pun. And they also indicated that they had increased their natural gas production by double the global average rate for the last 2 years, and they were just about to put 2 oil fields online that they had been entirely independent, defeating all sanctions to not only drill but build all the infrastructure and put in place all the pipelines and stuff. So they are frankly cock a hoot, and it's very clear that the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Russians, and the Chinese are all more than happy to cooperate with them. Their foreign minister met with the Saudi Arabian foreign minister on the sidelines of the OEC summit in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, and they put out a fantastically positive joint statement. So any idea that there's some kind of like temporary de-escalation and they're not actually pursuing very significant future strategic relations is completely out of the window. And in the meantime, Genocide Joe is just trying to avoid getting hauled before the International Criminal Court, like the government of Germany and the Prime Minister of Australia. So that's all the wrap up that I've got for you. Thank you ever so much for inviting me on. I'm sorry that I can't stay with you longer, but I'll be happy to speak with you next week, which indeed, if you decide to have a show, because I know one of you is traveling on the 14th, that will indeed be the eve of the Ides of March, which was the day where Julius Caesar was betrayed and stabbed to death by all of his fellow Roman senators.
Yeah, so catch Simon over on Weaponized News. You guys are doing a show right starting here in like 5 minutes, huh?
Literally in like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, to go over
let's go then.
Biden's.
So catch Simon over there.
Biden's speech, and there's a lot of significant points in it. Yeah.
So yeah, you can catch shows. Weaponized
Thanks,
News.
guys. Thanks ever so much. Bye bye.
Yeah,
Mike.
we'll catch you on your show, Simon. See you.
Yep, that was. He brought up something that I wanted to also talk about, and that's blood gargling psychopath with the reverse Midas touch, Victoria Newland, who is the architect of pretty much everything bad that has happened.
A great picture of her before she got into government and after. Did you see that one?
Yeah, it's like evil changes a person or something like that. But so if you can name a place that a semi-unstable region in the world that is completely devolved into full-on bloodshed and warfare, Victoria Newland has her hands in it in one capacity or another. And whether or not Anthony Blinken was trying to take the piss and rub our noses in it, or he's just completely clueless about what's going on in his own State Department, I don't know. But he drafted a letter, thanking her for her service and everything. And the three areas that he brought up in the sort of farewell letter to her was the Sahel region in Africa, the Middle East, and Haiti. How are those three places doing right now?
So you think he was making the point that she's an absolute failure as a stateswoman, or what?
At this point, Anthony Blinken, Simon in previous episodes has laid out how Anthony Blinken, she was actually kind of attractive over there on the left-hand side. And now she's like she's
4 years older than me. I mean, crap.
Yeah, she's like sour and bitter and angry. It's all that evil bottled up inside of her.
I think her and John Bolton would probably 69 in the back rooms, just getting on the evil shit they were doing.
Her husband's every bit as evil as she is.
Yeah.
Robert Kagan just got his hands involved in just as much evil shit as she does. But anyways, I was talking about Anthony Blinken. So Anthony Blinken is one of these. Simon's laid it out that he appears to be one of these practitioners of the lesser magics, the kind of speak it into existence, and if nobody counters you, then it's implied consent to whatever he's like. Simon went over his voodoo song that he did at a State Department function, and just all the stuff that he does. So he's out there, basically going over Victoria Nuland's greatest hits of failure, or at least failure from our perspective of it.
Yeah.
It might be success, resounding success.
I don't care who. There's no way you can think Haiti is a success in any metric. I mean,
No,
it gets worse. I mean, there was a story the other day about how Haiti, like, situation decreases in Haiti. It's like, how? At this point, how?
they eat dirt. They eat dirt. They literally make mud cakes and eat them as like filler because they're starving so much. But no, but it's in a state of full-on anarchy in Haiti right now. The Sahel region in northern Africa, that's the area around like Niger and Nigeria, and that place that was like this close to kicking off World War III a couple of months ago. That's the Sahel region. Victoria Nuland's got her hands all up in there, just up to the elbows in the blood and guts of that region. And then the Middle East.
Yeah.
Need I say more? The Middle East has been awful before, Victoria Nuland was even alive, but it's gotten just remarkably worse in the last couple of months. And of course, the other big thing that she's had her hands in more than anything recently is Ukraine. Jack Posobiec is out there in the ether right now. See, I figured that Victoria Nuland sees that the Biden ship is sinking and she's going to get out while the getting's good and like retire to some tropical island with a non-extradition treaty and just kind of hang out. But Jack Posobiec is of the mind that she's heading over to a think tank in Brussels where her sights are going to be set on Poland, and they're going to do everything they can to install a globalist government over there with Donald Tusk as the head of Poland in order to escalate things with Russia. Because apparently Victoria Nuland has a nuclear death wish or something. I don't know. But she's got a hard-on for Russia because her family is from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And her family is descended from the Trotskyite faction that was run out of Russia and into Ukraine at the end of the Bolshevik Revolution. So she's got like this generational bitter hatred towards the Russians for what they did to her family way back in the day. And that's why she's like hell-bent on breaking Russia however she can with the escalations and everything.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is in Haiti, the article I saw was the current leader that's backed by the Biden administration. They were supposed to have elections. Tell me if this sounds familiar, but they were unable to have elections. They were delayed until they could increase the security of the nation. Does that sound like any other Democrat Party puppets you could think of?
So never.
Yeah. Kind of like what Zelensky's doing, delayed the elections until for people that sure want to protect our democracy, they sure like to support.
I'm glad you brought up our democracy because there's a guy that's been making a lot of waves lately. His name's Mike Benz, Benz, like Mercedes-Benz. He's Mike Benz. And he has put it in a way that I have been struggling to do over the last few months or a year or so. We always talk about how when they say our democracy is at stake, our democracy is under threat, Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy, MAGA Republicans are a threat to our democracy. And we always make the joke that when they say our democracy, they really mean like their democracy, right? And that's the joke, and that's the best way that I've been able to put exactly what's going on. This Mike Benz guy, and this is absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
We hear them say that the people being allowed to vote the way that they want to for the candidates that they want to is a threat to our democracy, as like that's hypocritical. That's stupid. People voting for who they want to vote and the way that they want to vote is the definition of democracy. What the fuck are you talking about, you lunatics, right? Except it's not, because us and they are not working under the same definition of what democracy is.
Right.
You and I, our definition of democracy is the popular will of the people expressed through voting. That's been the definition of democracy since the word was invented by the Greeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have redefined democracy from the popular will of the people to the consensus built amongst institutions.
Well, and funnily enough, I've been playing a lot of the game Helldivers 2, and the satire would be a lot more hilarious in that game if it wasn't so close to the truth of some of the shit that is said. You know, their fascist government that hides behind democracy.
Right.
Uh,
If you think about it as in that way, that democracy is the consensus of the institutions,
mm-hmm.
then yeah, the average person voting for somebody like Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. The people in the EU or people in Great Britain voting for Brexit is a threat to democracy, even though them voting for Brexit was the definition of democracy. It was a referendum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes absolute sense when you think about it that way, that their definition of democracy is not the same definition as the one that we're operating on. And suddenly it goes from being hypocrisy and stupidity to being 100% making sense in the most insidious way imaginable.
Yeah, and again, this game, it's a great game, brilliant satire in it. They're spreading managed democracy, which in the game, the people don't actually vote. They go to a terminal and answer some questions, and and the terminal votes for the candidate for them.
In a way, that might be better because there can be, it's almost like taking a political compass test, right?
Well, I mean, in theory in the game, but I get the impression in the game that they're just
it's a piss take.
It's all a rigged election, yeah. But no, you're right. Yeah, political compass test, and you get your candidate. That would be a much better way. But this game came out at just the right time because of the shit that's going on and all the way they've captured that term. Like at one point in the game, somebody was like, "You want to be on the right side of history, don't you?" Enlist. I was like, "Oh, that fucking term."
Yeah, and I'm seeing this game everywhere, and I kind of want to get it now. If it's for the Xbox One, I might consider going out.
No,
and
it's
getting it.
PS5 only or PC.
Gay.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, the satire in that game's great. If you have a PS5 or PC, pick it up. Even if you suck at it, you'll get. If you follow this show, you will get a lot of laughs out of the government in that game and just the way things play out. It's like, don't trust people who have a different view than you. They're as alien as the aliens we're killing. Put a bullet in them. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? It's like, well, okay.
That's like punch a Nazi taken to its logical extreme.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, boy, that is just punch a Nazi right there. They just cranked it up to 11. So I haven't figured out. I need to look into it. If the developers are Europeans that are looking at it from the outside and realize how ridiculous our system is, or they're Americans who are woke, anti-woke, and just are trying to show people, how stupid this is.
Yeah, but it's interesting you brought up the woke or unwoke thing. I saw something a couple of days ago about it that somebody in like the Discord server that they have the devs actually have like a Discord server, and somebody was in there and they're like, "Can we get pride flag capes for our character?" And the devs were like, "No politics, just democracy." And they banned that person for asking for a trans pride flag cape, and then somebody else was like, "Yeah, I'm sick and tired of seeing these. I wish these trannies would just stay hidden and stay concealed." And then they banned that guy too.
Well,
so they didn't take one side or the other. They were just like, "Get your modern day, current year politics bullshit out of here. This is a game about killing giant bugs and robots with big guns. That's all it's supposed to be. It's funny satire. Keep your current year bullshit out of here."
And the Lotus Eaters touched on how some of the game studios are starting to go the Disney route, where these games just suck because they want to, let's have a bunch of strong black trans women as the main game characters.
Mhm.
Like, who wants to play that? No. It's guys being dudes that want to kill bugs and robots and spread democracy.
Yeah. I'll have to go back through it. Eric July has recently, the last few days, had a series of short videos on YouTube where he has gone over in depth, and I got to watch them all because it's really kind of a in the weeds type of thing. But there's a consulting company called Sweet Baby Inc.
Oh, I saw about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones that are behind a lot of this woke shit getting into video games, and they finally got exposed for the creepy.
They're like one of the top. I've noticed they're like one of the top game
Mhm.
curators on Steam, and all their games they curate are just shit that nobody plays.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll have to go back through and watch Eric July's videos. I've been meaning to.
I think they were going to touch on that in the Lotus Eaters, but I didn't finish the video of it.
Okay.
They were getting towards that. They had just mentioned them on Steam, and I had to go do something. We got a comment over here. Sounds like a mix of Starship Troopers and Warhammer 40K. It is nowhere near based as Warhammer, but the thing is, this
think
game,
more Halo ODST meets Starship Troopers.
yeah, this game though, the formula of it works so good it can be applied to any, like, I don't know, we're getting into gaming talk that people don't want to hear, but when the game PUBG came out, a battle royale, it was a top one, and then all of a sudden there's all sorts of battle royales of different formulas. I mean, the formula of this game would work great for Warhammer. It worked for Star Wars Clone Troopers. So you're going to see it spread to a lot of other games.
A lot of IPs are going to use this formula.
Yeah, Warhammer would be awesome in this. Just fighting for the Emperor, planet to planet, smashing heretics. Yeah, not as base as Warhammer, but it's a good game regardless. So we're getting up on an hour. We had Simon in. I took us off track on the gaming talk. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover.
Yep. I gotta go to bed. But for those of you out there who don't have an early morning wake up and want to stay awake for another hour or so, I just saw the notification pop up on my screen that Weaponized News
I'm going to
went
pop
live.
over there right after this. Listen to it while I'm spreading democracy. So
I'm gonna go to bed. So
thanks for joining us. You know where to follow us. Rosa #2 Liberty everywhere. If you're on Facebook, go to YouTube. YouTube, go to Rumble. Cross pollinate. As always, stay honky.